sad news this last Sunday. Community Printers has grown to be the largest printer on the Monterey Bay. At one point, I'd say there were 10 shops that I would describe as the largest shops on the Monterey Bay. Most have gone away. It's not like they failed, but in most cases, they didn't have a succession plan for the owner. So the last of the big shops, Printworks, which used to be Watsonville Press and had been in existence for 75 years, announced they were closing on last Friday, and the last day of all the workers there is tomorrow. The owner was 79 years old. He worked there for 45 years, has an amazingly loyal set of employees who work there, and we just hired one because we're hoping to extend our work in further and further into the Monterey area. Sad as it also has created an opportunity for our business to grow, but from talking to Lucy, there's been a lot of tears. It's just very, very hard to work with that many people for that long and then have this happen. I think it's good to recognize that Printworks, Watsonville Press, was not a failure. It was in existence for 75 years. Our 41-year-old business is a babe by comparison. But it's still sad because I don't believe that business closed because it couldn't pay the bills or couldn't succeed. It closed because it didn't have a succession plan. And many of the print shops that I've seen go by the wayside over the years, it's because the owners got to be 65, 70, 75, 80, and facing the question that all print shops face: should we invest more capital into the business, or should we retire, sell the presses, sell the property, and get the retirement life of their dreams? It's very easy to pick the second course, and it's often very difficult, especially with a profession like printing, where it's highly specialized, it's highly technical, to find owners in that kind of situation. I wasn't sure what I had to offer in this conversation because what do we know about succession plans and co-ops? We're a 41-year-old print shop. And then I realized, as I thought about it, over and over and over again in our industry, I've been watching these closures. So I also want to talk about why is it that if there were all these shops, and many of them were at one point much bigger than us, that we're kind of the last of the big shops still standing, and in fact doing quite well. And I believe it's not in spite of the fact that we're a co-op, but it's because we're a co-op, and that our motivations for how we run our business are a little bit different than the motivations of how a sole proprietor might run the business. So that sole proprietor is thinking about, are they going to have money to leave to their children? Are they going to have, what's going to be the most successful strategy for them personally? So at Community Printers, none of us have a stake, none of us own, and the business is probably worth $5 million by a conservative estimate. But with 35 people, we all own a pretty small part of that. And our motivation has been to try to maintain jobs, employment opportunities for all of us. So given the choice of, I had one competitor had to make a choice between buying a new Polar cutter, which is a giant paper cutter, and buying a new Porsche. And it was a difficult decision when he bought the Porsche. Okay? He was out of business a few years later. Us faced with the same decision, we're challenged to come up with ways to continually reinvent ourselves to be relevant going forward. And we've managed to create a culture that appreciates and values that notion of reinventing. every business is different. Our business is very technologically oriented and requires a constant investment into new types of printing presses, new types of finishing equipment. It's easy to get locked into a mindset that says, well, why do we have to change? We were doing all this just fine 10 years ago doing it this way. But the reality is that we have to continually reinvent ourselves. And the group really embraces that notion and takes that challenge on. We also haven't made a lot of the mistakes of some of the other large print shops that were in our community, where a sole proprietor had an idea. And they said, I'm going to buy a $2 million press that does A, B, C, D. And they didn't have to vet that idea with anyone else. It was their business. But for community printers, if one of us has the idea of buying a $2 million press, we have to convince 32 other people in the value of that purchase. In the process of developing the argument for that purchase, it starts to morph and change, and it starts to refine, and the idea starts to prove itself better and better. There really is a great deal of wisdom when you put all your heads together that sometimes is better than just one person. I'm not sure you could grow a Google with our democratic approach to decision making, but it's been an excellent mechanism for growing and sustaining a commercial printer. Anyway, I think I can stop there.